So today we are going to see about chapter 6, which is the last chapter, I hope, from your syllabus. So it's domestic violence and few other topics. What is domestic violence? So many of the times we would have heard the word violence everywhere, which is nothing but doing something bad or doing something which is not right. Okay, so domestic violence is any behavior the purpose of which is to gain power and control over a spouse, partner, girlfriend or boyfriend or intimate family member. Abuse is learned behavior. It is not caused by anger, mental problems, drugs or alcohol or other common excuses. Domestic violence is a pattern of abusive behavior in any relationship that is used by one partner to gain or maintain control over another intimate partner. So domestic violence here is mainly it's abusing a life partner or the opposite sex, like a girlfriend or a boyfriend, or like torturing them, abusing them, or a husband and wife, or between a husband and wife, or close family members whom one is intimate with. So it's abusing them, and they actually say that domestic violating or abusing the other partner is not by anger or by it cannot be considered as a depression, or people don't do it with related problems or anything, or due to alcohol, or it's nothing like that. So it is a behavior, it's a self behavior. So right from childhood what they are learning and how they are growing up by seeing abusive things. So these are the reasons behind the domestic violence. That is what they are trying to say. So it is taking a control over another person, like superiority or inferiority, such things between two intimate partners. So there are many types of domestic violence. So it includes physical abuse, sexual abuse, stalking or cyber stalking, emotional abuse and intimidation, threats, verbal abuse, using male privilege, and economic abuse. So we'll see one by one. So what is physical abuse? Like using your physical strength to abuse them. So which includes hitting, biting, slapping, stabbing, punching, pulling, or whatever it is, whatever kind of activity that physically abuses one person. So it also includes denying someone's medical treatment and forcing drug, alcohol use on someone. So this physical abuse does not only indicates the physical activities, but also forcing a person to take some medicine, or forcing somebody like partner or someone to take alcohol or to take drug, like forceful activity. So that also includes in physical abuse. And sexual abuse occurs when the abuser coerces or attempts to coerce the victim into having sexual contact or sexual behavior without the victim's consent. So for example, marital rape, attacking sexual body parts. Physical violence is followed by forcing sex, sexually demeaning the victim, or telling abusive jokes at the victim's expense. So sexual abuse is like forcing somebody to have sexual contact without the consent. So this also includes a married couple. This does not only include other people, not just the rape of other people, but also marital couple, husband and wife, without wife consent. The husband, even if he forces it, also it comes under sexual abuse. Stalking can include following victims, spying, watching, harassing, showing up at the victim's home or work, sending gifts, collecting information, making phone calls, leaving written messages, or appearing at a person's home or workplace. So, stalking is nothing but grounding a person without his knowledge or without he or she knowing that you are looking around the person or you are following them, or if somebody follows or you know gets around or get to know more about them by going to their workplace or by going to their homes or making unwanted calls or leaving messages. So this is called stalking. So that is also a kind of violence. Cyber stalking, nothing but sending mails or messages through online action. So that is called cyber stalking. Emotional abuse involves invalidating or deflating the victim's sense of self-worth or self-esteem. Like, emotionally, sometimes when we don't like a person, for example, we used to threaten them emotionally. Like when we were child or something, we used to break someone emotionally by telling unwanted things or by degrading them, by talking abusive things to them or criticizing them. So emotional abuse often takes the form of constant criticism, name calling, injuring the victim's relationship with his or her children, or interfering with the victim's abilities, like just degrading them, pulling them down. Those kind of emotional things happening. It is called emotional abuse. Threats to hit, injure, or use a weapon are a form of psychological abuse. Like sometimes we hear like few psycho people, they threaten that they will kill themselves or they'll injure themselves. So that is also one of a kind of psycho abuse. Economic abuse takes place when the abuser makes or tries to make the victim financially reliant. Economic abuses often seek to maintain total control over financial resources, withhold the victim's access to funds, or prohibit the victims from going to school or work. So economically, sometimes they used to abuse the partner. This usually happens between a married couple, husband and wife. So sometimes the husband becomes more dominant and takes up the whole financial thing in his hand, and he will not give enough money to take over wives' needs. And sometimes they will stop women from going to work and ask them to work at home or stay at home. So these are a kind of economic abuses. Using male privilege. As long as we as a culture accept the principle and privilege of male dominance, men will continue to be abusive. So I don't know how much you will agree to this, but that's truth. As long as we as a culture accept and tolerate the violence against women, men will continue to be abusive. Not every man. This does not indicate every man, that every men are abusive. So a few are there who are very abusive by words and who are very dominant over female workers or female partners or wife or anything. So this indicates that, and we see few male people or young adults or youngsters, they say in Tamil ambala na ambalada. So though that is called as male privilege, for example, I'm saying. And next one is verbal abuse. Is any abusive language used to denigrate, embarrass, or threaten the victim verbally, like talking vulgar words, bad words that hurts or hurts the other person. It is called verbal abuse. The victims of domestic violence. Victims are nothing but people who are facing these kind of violences. They are the victims. We call them as victims. So first thing, spouses, like wives or husband. sexual dating, intimate partners like boyfriend, girlfriend, fiance, all of them, family members, children, cohabitants, whoever whom we are very close, and so they are called the victims of domestic violence. Domestic violence recognize that victims can include anyone regardless of socio-economic background, education level, race, age, sexual orientation, religion or gender. Domestic violence was formerly referred to as wife abusive. So as I said to you earlier, domestic violence usually happens between a husband or wife, mostly wife, not husbands. However, this term was abandoned when the definition of domestic violence was changed to reflect that wives are not the only ones who can fall victim to domestic violence. So, in the later period, they were saying that only wives are facing domestic violence. So, it is not only between spouses; it also happens between other people, like whoever, like friends, between friends or people who are very close to a person, so they are also included in this. So the next topic is condition of working women. So this is mainly this talks about people or women in India who are still facing these kind of discrimination and criticism, in working or in going out, and so women's lack of access to higher education had effectively excluded from the practice of well-paid and high-status occupation. So though there are still few people or few community who does not let women from the family to go and work and to go and socialize themselves with the world. There are people who still criticize women, saying that women should not go for work and they have to stay at home and look after the family. So that is still going on in few families and few communities, few religion wise. So they are still there. So though they are very good in knowledge and though they are very highly educated, but still they stay at home, avoid going for work, and because of the family people and because of their opinions of the family members. So this is still happening mostly in India. Entry of women into higher profession like law and medicine was delayed in most countries due to women being denied entry to universities and qualification for degrees. So this does not only talk about India but also in few like uneducated like community. So they still don't let the women to go higher and higher in studies or in work like law or medicine. So we see only nowadays, we see, because it's totally different, the culture is totally being changed. So in the early days we don't see much lawyer or much doctors and ladies or women. So that is what they are talking about. The fact that women have fewer opportunities in labor market may contribute to their unequal treatment in the household. Increased opportunities for women in the labor market do indeed translate into better outcomes for women. So they are saying that in the market, like in the community, in the world, when we see that, when we compare men and women, so they are saying there are increased opportunities in the market in today for better outcomes. So for the women to shine, there are lots of new policies and new rules and new opportunities that are being created, that have been created by the government and by by a group of people, by a group of women, to come out of their house and shine equally as men. So that is what they are saying about. Women still contribute to their communities in many regions, mainly through agricultural work, In Southern Asia, Western Asia, and Africa, only 20% of women work at paid non-agricultural jobs. So most of the women in Southern Asia and Western Asia and African countries, so these kind of countries, like this also includes India, we see most of the women, they contribute their work or their time to agricultural works, so like farmers and people who work as coolie. So most of them, 20% of them are being worked for agricultural jobs. During the 20th century, the most significant global shift in women's paid employment came from the spread of global travel and the development of large migrant workforce of women domestic workers seeking jobs outside of their native country. So in the 20th century, the women's are being employed in the abroad countries, and they go as a migrant and they work for them and they get settled in a different place, just to seek job outside of their country. And to the next is human trafficking often targets young women who are abducted and sent outside their own country to work as domestic workers, often in conditions of extreme exploitation. So just like we saw child labor, women are also being used in human trafficking, like exploitation. They make women also to work as domestic workers in the countries. I mean, we also see sometimes, right, like in construction works or in other kind of people who are under poverty, they are working in all kinds of fields. So they also target women. So women are most emotional, so they are targeting the women. Apart from men, women and children are being exploited. So that is what they are saying. So the next topic is child labor. Child labor we have already seen in the last topic. The term child labor is often defined as work that deprives children of their childhood, their potential, and their dignity, and that is harmful to physical and mental development. It refers to work that is mentally, physically, socially, or morally dangerous and harmful to children. So child labor is happening in some of the states, that in northern states and all. We see children working along with their parents, who like in building works, construction works and all, right? So it is very harmful to the children, and because that damage their mentally and physically and emotionally, and it's dangerous, because those children, they see the other children who are very who goes to work often. So these kind of children, when we see, we feel so heartbreaking to see them working in the area, because they don't know what they are doing and they don't know what is the reason for their situation also. So they cannot understand when they see other people who are going to school dressed up dressed up well, and they are of same age, and they feel so heartbroken. So that will emotionally it's harmful to the children. So though it is banned in the entire country, in many countries child labor has been banned, but some of them, secretly, knowingly or unknowingly, who are under poverty, they are being used still in child labor. So what are the main causes of child labor? First thing is poverty, and unemployment levels are high. So some of the people who are under the poverty line, they don't know, and because they are very uneducated. First thing is the parents are very uneducated, and they don't know what is the importance of education, and they cannot teach their children also. So just because they don't have any other work or jobs to do, so they depend on these kind of works, and so they put their children's lives also into this thing. And free education is very limited. So we don't have much government schools all over our country. This does not only talk about our country, this also talks about all other countries like Africa, Kenya. So these are the main countries where we can see people under poverty. So free education is very limited in all these kind of countries, and there are not necessary resources available to them. So that is the main reason to survive. They have no other choice other than making this huge decision to put their children into work. Laws and codes of conduct are often violated. So violation is being everywhere. So nobody follows the rules, and that could be one of the reason. National laws often excludes exemptions. So sometimes the laws even excludes certain things, like people, like children above 14 can work, and few countries allow, like Kenya and all, they allow children above 14 years to work. So these are the kind of things that causes the child labor. So next is the rights of people with HIV and AIDS. This is a separate topic, but I included in this topic to cover up your syllabus. So rights of people with HIV and AIDS. We take a step back when we hear about HIV or AIDS, right? Isn't it? Because it is a very deadly viral disease. So everyone is scared of being in contact with people with AIDS or HIV. So what the government or the law says is that international human rights laws and treaties give every person the right to health and to access HIV and other healthcare services. So the international law, not just the national, it's the international human rights. So they give laws and rights to the people with HIV, just like all other people. Human rights violations in the context of HIV include the criminalization and enactment of punitive laws that target people living with and most affected by HIV. It also includes stigma and discrimination in the workplace and in healthcare services, gender inequality, and denial of access to HIV services. So though we are being taught by different laws and different rules, but still we take a step back when we see these kind of people who are affected with this deadly disease. But the law says that we should treat them equally, just like we treat other people, and not just in other places, especially in healthcare services. People living with HIV infection and AIDS should have the